Report range status.
Range green. 54. POP started.
Less than a minute. Thanks for joining me, everybody.
We'll trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight press.
30. Sensor at flight press. 25.
Status check. Go Atlas.
Go Sensor.
20 seconds.
Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sonny.
Ten seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of
We're on the
Starliner
way.
Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
They've cleared the tower. That spacecraft is accelerating rapidly.
Calling down to mission control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its
Calypso literally leapt off the pad.
Here in the room, seeing good data on that.
The sight and the sounds never get old.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, or the speed of sound.
Looks fairly nominal to me. Looking down past one of the solid rocket motors. Chunks of ice falling off the side of the spacecraft, which is pretty typical. Me too, Sarah, me too.
Starliner and Atlas. Looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
One of the things that's hard to visualize is how rapidly the power to weight ratio of this spacecraft is changing as we're watching it ascend.
The fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted. The Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Both those solid rocket boosters and the main booster fuel tanks are being emptied as the spacecraft is accelerating upward into increasingly thinner air, less resistance. Now that doesn't affect power to weight ratio, but the reduction in weight certainly does.
If needed, all looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into
there goes the solid rocket boosters, and we're getting a very good indication, a very good visual indication of the flat trajectory of this spacecraft. It's pitching over very dramatically this early into the flight, on its way to that suborbital trajectory.
CLG and net, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Ah, no, you never did, not please. It's nice to have you here. I'm very honored that you made the trip over. Thank you. I appreciate all of you wonderful folks that are from the community over on Twitch coming to join me.
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
Thank you very much. ULA is not known for its deep space coverage on their rockets. I don't know whether that will change on this flight or not, but I'm saying that because we might be switching to animation view fairly soon. They're known for having a camera mounted in the way that we're looking at this view at the moment, and they call it rocket cam footage. Wow, there we go. I've watched a few United Launch Alliance rockets launch in the past. And what they traditionally do, okay, there's separation. We're looking at the RL-10s on the Centaur upper stage. These are liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen fueled motors.
Staging.
Here in the ground.
Exactly. But ULA is known for then releasing the rocket cam footage later. They just don't send it during telemetry on the ascent. Just a different approach.
On top of Starliner that's been protecting
There goes that
the
skirt.
spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit.
I don't know if you could see
They
it
saw
passing
that
by.
jettison as planned.
Staging was good. You have good control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
I think the aeroskirt already jettisoned. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought I saw half of it go past camera a moment ago. You can see that structural.
Starliner, you had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
That scaffolding like structure that was covered earlier by that circular skirt.
Atlas Control reporting booster performance offset of 31 seconds of ISP, or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around.
Those engines are capable of gimbaling, as far as I know. And I believe I saw them gimbaling a moment ago. This spacecraft system is also covered with other reaction jets, reaction rockets, thrusters. That's part. There you go. You just see an animation of them firing. In fact, that's part of the calculus for the issue with the helium leak.
All continuing to perform well, almost 7 minutes into today's flight.
Because the helium is used in the yes, indeed, about the gimbaling. The helium appears to be used, the pressurized helium, to control the valves on one of the redundant thrusters in the Starliner system itself. And so
Capcom Joshua Kutrick.
There were software changes and assessments made to make sure that if they did, in fact, lose that valve and that control system due to the helium leak, they could return to Earth safely. This view of the animation, if you can imagine just the capsule at the very, very top, you can see how similar in shape it is to the legacy Apollo capsules.
Starliner is now entering its first guided abort range, where Starliner would direct itself towards a specific location in the event of abort. In this case, just off the coast of St. John's, the capital of the Canadian province of Newfoundland, Labrador.
They are going quite north, which is a bit unusual. I don't know if you picked up on that. He just talked about how they're going past Newfoundland. This is not going straight at the equator, which is typical for many launches from Florida, because that flight along the equator to the east actually saves you some energy budget.
Starliner, MECO converged 11:5 to 11:52. Good perf. You're at 34 to 36 seconds.
11:52, 34 seconds.
That call letting the crew know that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12 minutes into today's flight. Another good indication that Starliner's ascent is taking along exactly as expected. Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
Devra, you had me at Delta V.
Still got about 2.5 minutes until we get to that. With the spacecraft continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No
It's
action,
interesting.
Starliner on the LCL. That's just the system coming up into controlling mode.
It's interesting to see their
Outstanding. No action.
their nomenclature. They refer to the next major event as main engine cutoff, where traditionally
With the main
that's used to
engine cutoff,
describe
next step
the
will be
engines
the
on
launch vehicle
the
separation.
first stage or
That's set to
booster.
occur just short of 15 minutes after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time.
But they are using it, of course, to describe the RL-10s that are powering the Centaur upper stage. The Centaur system itself is quite well known, quite well understood. It's been flying for decades. It's not that common to see it with two
Flight Dynamics officer reporting that to this point,
two
Starliner could
Centaurs.
potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
two Centaur rocket nozzles, but that is what they're doing
again,
to
all
achieve their
continuing well, so
performance
we're not
goals
expecting to need that abort.
with this system.
As Starliner is rapidly approaching orbital velocity, the support region is only available for just over 1 minute, where Starliner would just continue up to orbit after that.
You like that, Notley? Yeah. Yeah, it's part of why this contract was so expensive, and I'm not trying to be anything other than analytical here. Atlas is a legacy system. Centaur is a legacy system. The capsule
30 seconds
design
to
is
go.
an evolved legacy
Now
system
until main engine cutoff,
made by a
marking
legacy
Starliner's arrival on
contractor,
orbit.
and it's got an extensive flight history. ULA has one of the best flight reliability records as a company in the world. It's very admirable. They've been used for so many of the deep space missions and national security payloads prior to SpaceX showing up. Really very highly regarded, but also very expensive and not the most agile as a company. They moved in traditional ways.
Nominal MECO Starliner.
But it's a very storied past as well. They've accomplished great things with the extraordinary
And with that nominal MECO
extraordinary
call,
flights to
main engine
their
cutoff,
credit.
We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the
Can you imagine the
International Space
view
Station for
that Sonny and
rendezvous
Butch have right now, flying
tomorrow.
that low
And with
altitude
that, Butch
at
Wilmore and
that
Sonny
speed?
Williams returned to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
It is heckin' cool. Centaurs are heckin' cool for sure.
14:52.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station
This
via
is again the
Space Shuttle
first
and
flight
Soyuz, and are now well on their way to repeating the
of the
journey via
Boeing
Starliner.
CST-100 Starliner with
It's also
people
worth
on
noting
board.
that Williams' role as pilot marks the first time that a woman has crewed a flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Just a few seconds ago, you heard Capcom Joshua Kutrich calling up to Butch and Sonny.
Thank you, Dead Horse. I appreciate you, buddy.
With the expected time, Starliner will separate from Centaur at about 14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight, just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
When you see the
That is
thrusters
actually the last
firing,
major milestone for Starliner's ascent. All the hard work
it
is done
sometimes
that we need
strikes
for
me as
Starliner to be flying on its
amazing
own
that
before
they have
begin
enough
heading towards the
propellant on
International
board
Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while
to run them as often as they do.
does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
Also, just to keep in mind, nothing here except the capsule will be reusable. Atlas is gone. It's not landing and being recovered, and the Centaur will be disposed of, and it will not be recovered. Nobody recovers their upper stages at all so far. That includes SpaceX. And in fact, on the Starship launch, they're going to be jettisoning a hot fire structural element, and that will be thrown away, which will make Starship no longer a 100% reusable spacecraft. It's still going to have a very high level of reusability. All right, there goes RL-10. There goes the Centaur. I wish we had more live video. I feel like we're watching Kerbal Space Program. It doesn't exactly look like an X-Wing fighter.
And now Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage. We have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Sunny a smooth ride.
Hello, Halsey.
To space.
That is not the end of today's
It is
orbit activity, though.
It is me talking.
We'll now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes
How are
31
you?
minutes after flight.
It's very nice to have you
about
here.
15 minutes away now. Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore will be getting their tablets out and doing a few other activities to get Starliner ready for that.
My understanding, by the way, is that Starliner, while perfectly capable of being flown in an automated fashion,
International Space Station,
and it will be flown largely in an automated fashion on this flight, seems to have more manual modes than the Crew Dragon does. And if you've watched Crew Dragon fly, you've seen that the astronauts and passengers aboard spend a lot of time monitoring systems, touching touch screens, and I believe also using tablets. They don't do a lot of flying with joysticks or other manual control systems.
Starliner with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams on board launched from Florida, the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41 at 9:52 a.m. Central, 10:52 a.m. Eastern today, and they have now made it into orbit.
TDRA show MDL is active. You have good targeting.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Halsey. I appreciate you coming over and stopping by and joining us. We have quite a few of the other regulars here from Twitch.
With the
Sarah, I 100% agree with you.
Information about Starliner's TDRA schedule being good means that good communication.
I'm a civilian light airplane pilot,
relay data satellites,
and the lack of manual flight controls and lack of manual flying modes as part of the mission plans hurts me a little bit. It kills me just a little bit inside. Yeah, Halsey, I think everybody here is thrilled. The launch itself was beautiful. It looked like they had a very nominal ascent. And so far, things look to be all quite nominal. We'll see. There'll be a NASA press conference, probably in a couple of hours, and they will go through any off-nominal events.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
I agree with you, Sarah.
Copy tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
Speaking of tablets, they are on their tablets now.
So the crew
kids today
have their tablets out, so no longer using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly.
Yeah, I do feel like they have passed the major risk points. Anytime you've got staging, that is absolutely a risk point.
So there's a handful of things that the crew's going to do now, mostly just
prepare. And so at this moment, they're basically taking stock of how things went.
For the upcoming orbital insertion burn.
They are getting ready to, as they just said on the commentary. Hello, Mongo. On the commentary, they're talking about preparing for the orbital insertion burn. Basically, that low altitude flight is coming to an end, and they realized that the status is green to go toward the space station, and they're going to be basically starting to climb uphill.
Upcoming in about 4 minutes, Starliner is going to start to orient itself in the direction it needs to do the orbital
and Halsey,
burn.
I don't have an exact time tomorrow for Starliner. I am planning on doing it in exactly the same way that we're doing this. I will be here. The URL will probably be different. In fact, I know it will be for the video stream. And sadly,
Starliner last arm is off. Backup control switches, enable 1 on, enable 2 off. SMRCS is the mode.
I was just pausing to let Butch talk there. SpaceX is streaming to Twitter. And yes, I'm calling it Twitter again, just for if you just got here. And that is a little bit more difficult to capture with quality. They've stopped streaming to YouTube, and since it's a private mission being conducted for their own purposes, they're not flying for NASA. They won't be streaming to NASA's YouTube channel. Yep. Rest well, Fuda. Rest well. Thank you for joining me, my friend. You take care. I'll be live on Twitch tonight and tomorrow night. If you can come by and say hello, love to see you. There you go, Dead Horse. This definitely has a Kerbal Space Program vibe. Sleep well, though, in the meantime, my friend.
Things will be pretty quiet as Starliner gets into position for the orbital insertion burn. That's still about 10 minutes away. Starliner is actually designed to be pretty autonomous, and in fact, docked with the space station on its last trip around without the help of any crew on board. But we do still want to know that if needed, Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams could take control and manually abort the spacecraft's approach to the station if they needed to. So to prove that, one of the few things on their agenda after they reach orbit will be to perform a test of the manual piloting mode.
So there we go. That actually touches on something that we were just discussing. It's basically an automated flight, except for where they wish to test the manual override systems.
Towards the Earth, so that its communication antenna on the back of the service module is pointed at the satellites, the teeter satellites that allow it to communicate with the team on the ground. They'll then move Starliner so that its solar arrays are pointed at the sun, showing they could charge Starliner's internal batteries as needed. And they'll follow that up with a demonstration of the star trackers, one of the ways that Starliner determines where it is in space, pointing Starliner away from Earth so that the system, the Vesta system, can get a good look at the stars.
The next step will be for the crew to manually speed Starliner up and then slow back down, which will slightly raise and then lower their orbit and prove that they can manually break away from the orbit that the space station is in if they needed to. At that point, they can move on to the last items of the test.
Still no action on your cabin temp. You're in a good config. It's 74 degrees in there. Yeah, that's just due to that T2 sensor sitting beside the light. So we're actually going to inhibit that particular sensor. We'll let you know when we bring it back online.
Okay, great. Looks like we're on our way to thrust line.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you. I do know who you are from my Twitch community.
Calling up that the crew can ignore some alarms they're seeing on the temperatures inside Starliner. That's
absolutely
just a
so.
Result of
absolutely.
One of the sensors being next to a light.
I think we both understand.
Sounds like the crew are pretty comfortable and are getting into
why the automation exists and why it's being implemented in this application.
have manually broken away from the orbit of, proven that they can manually break away from the orbit of the space station. They are going to
I
move
hope you're
on to
doing
the
well,
last
Thilo.
items of their test for tonight. That's
So
manually
my
moving
plan right
Starliner into the
now
right
is
orientation for
to stick
re-entering
with
the
you and
atmosphere,
stick with this
and then
through
moving back into
orbital
the
insertion, which
attitude
is about
that will
another
let them
10 minutes
shovel to the
away.
sun with the solar arrays
I
and
don't know
try a
that there'll
different
be
method of
much to
manually
comment
charging the
on
spacecraft's batteries.
after that.
But again,
And just a
once
reminder, I'm planning
that
to
all
be
has to
back
wait
tomorrow
until after
morning,
the orbital
and I'm
insertion
of
burn,
course
which is again
streaming
the
tonight on
first of
Twitch.
several
I'll be
burns that
back
will
tomorrow
put
morning, and we'll
Starliner
be doing
on
this
its
again
way
for
to the
the
International
Starship
Space
flight.
Station. We've still got about
It's quite a
6.5
week
minutes
of
until we
activity.
fire up the engines for that burn.
Not too far down the path, the NASA X-59 supersonic low boom demonstrator.
Starliner, we did not see the hand controller deflection. Just wanted to know if you did that yet.
We'll be doing an engine fire up.
No, we'll
Not
get
today.
All good.
Yeah, I got 2 hours sleep last night, Tilo. I will go back to bed after this. Hopefully, although I had some caffeine. It's interesting how they colored the thrusters differently to make it easier to detect which one is firing. That's the first time I think I can recall seeing that. It probably has been done before, but that's the first time I've ever noticed it. I'm sorry about that, Sarah. I've been thinking about trying to start an hour earlier because I'd like to go to bed earlier, but the days tend to get consumed and I don't have enough time to start on time as it is. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. One of the amazing things about doing the Twitch show is that I've come to know people all over the world. It's something I tell my friends all the time,
Team
how
on the
much I
ground
enjoy it.
seeing that everything is looking like
Having
it's
a
in the
global
right
community.
configuration for the orbital insertion burn. Now less than 5 minutes away. Starliner is currently about 102 miles above the Mediterranean Sea, heading southeast over India in the next few minutes.
So they've achieved over 100 miles of altitude in 26
Starliner,
minutes.
Good config for the OI burn.
good config for
Thanks,
OI.
Mongo. Are you doing well, buddy? I know you said you're having coffee.
And good config from the OI burn.
Thank you so much,
Controls
Halsey.
noted
Appreciate it
that
very much.
Starliner is pointed in the direction
You're
it needs
always
to for
welcome.
the OI burn.
Always welcome.
It should also be about the time that the crew are using their tablets for their procedures, also charging them, keeping them topped up for the rest of the rendezvous.
We unfortunately won't have a view of Williams and Wilmore as they work through this procedure. Although we had a view of them from inside the cabin on the ground, Starliner isn't able to send that view to us again until it gets to the International Space Station. So you'll be seeing this screen quite a bit as Starliner was getting into the right position for the burn. And actually just now you can see some of the engines firing that help it steer and move around in space. And you can also see what attitude it's in at any given time. Lots of good information on this screen.
It is. A lot of this information actually directly mimics the views that the crew is seeing, especially the one in the upper left-hand panel. That is an exact copy of the display the crew is using for their attitude directional indicator. It also covers what mode their translational hand controller and the translational pointing is in. On the left side, on the right side, the pointing guidance, which tells the Starliner in
Oh my gosh,
automated
Mongo.
mode which direction to point, or when in manual mode, which direction the crew needs to move the vehicle.
Yeah, you don't want the
like we're going
potatoes
do in some of the
to
manual piloting
rot.
maneuvers.
So we've heard a confirmation there
And
that
following back up a little bit on
the way that
conversation,
Starliner's
there
been
is
built.
a planned upgrade of the Mustang system that we should see on our PCM-1 mission, and that will include live feeds from inside the cockpit.
There we go.
And the Mustang system is the cameras that we were seeing views from earlier.
Their video transmission system will be getting an upgrade eventually, but we're not going to see a live feed from the cockpit or the cabin until they get to the space station.
Without being directly right in their face while they're inside the cockpit during pre-launch. But once they're in orbit, they've gotten out of their seats a little bit, and we should be able to see a little bit more around the cabin.
We'll, though, as you've already heard, continue to hear regular audio updates from the crew. Everything going well now that...
so the view in the lower left-hand corner is the view, simulated view, looking down from space, and the
burn that will be kind of
green, brownish background is meant to indicate the terrain over the part of the Earth that they're presently flying.
Took place at 10:52
That's why you're also
Eastern
seeing it change.
Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams launched inside the first Starliner to carry crew members on board from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41.
Hello, Spider. Good morning, my friend.
Minutes later, and now we are just again waiting for this.
About 2 hours sleep. I'm going to try and sneak back a few after the show ends. It's good to see you. I hope you're dope well.
To take place
hope your whole family's doing well.
12:15 p.m. Eastern, 11:15 a.m. Central tomorrow.
We're going to be going for probably another 10 minutes or so. Hopefully we'll get through the orbital insertion burn.
And we're coming up at about 40 seconds.
And have a chance to wrap up with the lovely folks here.
This burn
after that goes hopefully nominally
out of its slightly suborbital trajectory and push it up to an altitude that will allow us to catch up with ISS for a rendezvous later tomorrow.
15 seconds left to go, and once again, you'll be able to see those engines firing on this digital screen here that show when the burn has started.
2 seconds.
All right, burn has begun. They've really gone all in on the color coding.
Here in Houston, seeing 4 good OMACs, good burn.
We took a look. That was a good OI burn. You're maneuvering to NavCal 1.
These look like happy controllers.
OI burn, going to NavCal 1.
And with that call up, both crew and flight controllers agreeing that that was a good OI burn. I'm looking at the trajectory plot here.
That means orbital insertion.
I see our trajectory pointing us directly up to the altitude we need to go to for the next burn. Right now, Starliner is moving into NavCal mode, or NavCal attitude. That's going to be the first of several positions that Starliner, directions that Starliner points itself to.
Yeah, I'm very happy for the entire team.
Starliner, and update the
from Calypso all the way back to the factory where they build these systems and all the subcontractors. This has been a long day coming.
And of course, you're seeing lots of happy faces and cheers here there in Florida. Everybody glad to see Starliner safely in orbit with Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams in tow, sending it on its way to the International Space Station for docking tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, Starliner safely on orbit, has conducted a good orbital insertion burn and is on its way.
All right. Well, folks, what do you think? Is this a good place to call it a wrap? Let old Aero go try and get a little bit of sleep, and prepare for a pretty interesting stream we got up tonight on Twitch.
Starliner Houston.
Four more hours.
Yeah, you do have good cooling. The sublimator is working. We are watching it, though, because the water usage is just a little more than we thought we were going to see. You probably noticed that. It's a reason for the advisory there. From the ground, we'd like to swap you over to the other leg. So we're going to close sublimator leg 1, wait for about 60 seconds, and then open up leg 2. You'll see us do that. No impact or action.
So there's
Okay, we copy. We'll be watching. Thank you.
Something that is still within safe parameters. It sounds like a cooling system, or perhaps some other environmental control system, or a system.
Joshua Kutrick there again, giving the crew some words about information they're seeing on orbit. This one related to sublimators, which are used to cool the spacecraft down. But just letting them know that there's nothing that they need to be concerned about. The team will keep watching that. In the meantime, as Starliner begins making its way to the International Space Station, we're going to check in with Rob Navius in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Rob?
Yeah, thanks very much, Brandy.
I'm going to drop the volume down here just so we can.
The work now just beginning for.
We could be as much alone as we can possibly be here. I'll leave the video up. Yeah, indeed, Spider. The plan is to start at the normal time, not late. And if I can get a little bit of sleep in, that'll make it a bit easier. But there's a kind of an interesting announcement that'll be taking place tonight, and that will affect the streams in a positive way for the rest of the month. So looking forward to sharing that news with everybody. But yeah, there's apparently a bit of a cooling system, off nominal indication of higher than expected water use. The controller didn't seem to sound too concerned about that, but it sounded like they were going to be switching over to what he described as a different leg, which just sounds like it's a parallel system. It doesn't sound like it's a backup necessarily even. And they're going to keep an eye on the water use. That's the last update that we were listening to there from. Yes, tomorrow, Mongo. Thank you so much for the kind words and always for being such a wonderful part of this community, my friend. Tomorrow is Starship. Today was Starliner. Today is the Calypso Starliner built by Boeing. Tomorrow is the Starship built by SpaceX. Tomorrow will be test flight 4. Again, they're not planning on landing. I'm going to go ahead and mute this all the way. They're not planning on landing under control, either the Super Heavy booster or the Starship itself. They're planning on having, if they are successful with all their mission goals, controlled re-entry and controlled touchdown into the water for both Super Heavy booster as well as the Starship itself after it has traversed a good part of the globe and comes down in the Indian Ocean. They were not under control on test flight 3. The heavy booster was destroyed before coming into contact with the water, and the Starship disintegrated essentially during the reentry. It had lost directional control and was not oriented correctly for reentry. And despite the amazing video that was fed to us, that suboptimal orientation led to the loss of the vehicle during the reentry process on the Starship. But that's for tomorrow. That's for tomorrow. I think there's a lot of happy folks, justifiably happy folks at NASA, at United Launch Alliance, and at Boeing, and all of the contractors and their families that contributed the parts and pieces that went into today's successful, I believe, successful launch of the Boeing CST-100 Starliner. Calypso is the ship's name, named by Sonny Williams, as a matter of fact, to honor Jacques Cousteau and the ship that he sailed on so many beloved television programs, The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. His converted minesweeper was called Calypso. Let's call it a wrap there, my friends. Unless there's anything else you'd like to chat about in chat. Yeah, it was a converted minesweeper, Calypso. Hey, Cheap, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Yeah, Mongo, I became a documentary filmmaker in part because I was inspired by Jacques Cousteau and the television programs, The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. I saw programs there that were informative, but yet incredibly entertaining and beautifully shot. And I thought to myself, I would love to do that. It's why my production company has a logo that is a flying fish, and I learned to scuba dive, and I learned to sail. Thank you, Sarah. I was so thrilled to have you here. Thank you for participating so beautifully in the chat. Love your expert knowledge and your enthusiasm. Really a lovely surprise to have you here. Jeep, I hope you're doing well, buddy. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, this has been delightful. The only thing that would have made it better is if I'd had more sleep. We'll be doing this hopefully on the regular. The space stuff that's dedicated like this will probably always be here on YouTube. Cold Heart Death, Master Snake, my friend. You have a wonderful time zone. You get some rest as well. I think it's probably the middle of the night where you are, and I hope we can see you soon on Twitch or back here tomorrow on the Starship flight. Jimmy Buffett once wrote about a beach house on the moon. Jeep. Beach house? That would probably make it an Airbnb, not a hotel, not a motel. All right, let's go to the somewhat simpler ending stream screen. Again, no webcam on here this morning. I figured you wanted to most definitely not see my face at dark early for me and see the rocket launch instead. So no plans to do that. I wish you all and your families an absolutely wonderful day. And I hope you all fare well until we get to see each other again. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me today. You made this a lot more fun as ever. The community is just absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Dead Horse. Thank you, buddy, for being here. Thank you for being such a great cheerleader and friend for all these years now. Appreciate you very, very much. I say it a lot, but I truly love my community. I feel really, really, really blessed. And hopefully I'll get to see some of you tonight. In the meantime, thank you, and I will wrap it there. Bye-bye.